basketball is like one of the only sports where, there's only 5 guys on the court.
Right.
And so, if you have a consistent player like LeBron James, who's 25 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists per game, that it's just like the people don't go as much to the team perspective, and they just do player props. And so since the player prop market is just so much more inflated, more so than football, more so than baseball, and obviously a lot more than hockey.
Yeah, I don't really know about that. I feel like I'd have to do like a study on it.
Same, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
just to see, hey, like what's getting what
Right.
here. I think hockey is at a little bit of a disadvantage because it was NBC for so long. It used to be ESPN back in the 90s and early 2000s, but it went to NBC for a while, and then it went back to ESPN. But, I mean, if you go through the ESPN Instagram page, X page, TikTok, whatever, I would see maybe 2 or 3 hockey posts for every 20 NBA posts. And then obviously everyone rips on ESPN for posting about LeBron every day.
Oh, so. For sure. I mean, it
gets clicks, though.
It does get clicks. I mean, whenever I see it, I roll my eyes, but I'm also like, well, they're doing it for a reason. They've got the metrics to say that every time we put LeBron on something, whether it could be something that's not even his sport, like whenever he's golfing, whenever he's talking football picks, he always generates clicks somehow, some way. 20-something plus years in the public eye, he is still on it. As far as the details of some of these agreements here, as it relates to kind of when and where these things will roll out, as you see right there, the betting tab there with ESPN.
That's interesting to me.
Yes, absolutely, because if you see it right now, it's everything ESPN bet. They even have a show now ESPN bet. Now it'll be all folded into the DraftKings model there as well. The partnership officially ends with Penn on December 1st.
Yes.
And so that's why you see on that last bullet point there that the products are integrated in December of 2025. We have a great show in store today. Lots of great guests, including our first guest today, Julian Minnesone out of Nashville. We'll also speak with our good friend Scott Griffin out of Birmingham as Alabama gets ready for LSU, and Levon Whitaker out of Austin as the Texas Longhorns prepare for another big challenge in keeping themselves in the hunt for a college football playoff spot. Keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We head to Nashville next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, it is the first hour on a Friday, gearing up for another big week in the college football world. Oh yeah, you got your pink on there. Also played a little golf earlier. We'll check in with that golf game a little bit later on in the show. Some interesting storylines across the college football world. LSU playing their first game this week against Alabama without their head coach, their former head coach, first game without Brian Kelly. Same situation for the Auburn Tigers. They fired Hugh Freeze. Now they make the trip up to Nashville to play Vanderbilt, and that is where we check in with our good friend Julian Minnesone. First of all, Julian, this is a Vanderbilt team that's in a really interesting and precarious position right now as it relates to the college football playoff. Obviously played very, very well in the fourth quarter last week. Barely lost to Texas there in Austin. Now they return home for a big game against the Tigers. As you reflect on what you have seen from last Saturday to this point, where is this football program?
Well, it's interesting, right? I felt better about this Vanderbilt team after that 17-point loss to Alabama than I did after the 3-point loss to Texas. And that's because that 3-point loss and that score was not indicative of how poor the Commodores played.
Right.
I mean, from the first play from scrimmage, when Arch Manning and company gashed them for 80 yards, they pretty much had to play catch-up the rest of the way. And the problem with this Vanderbilt team, and one of their weaknesses, I guess, if you could, poke holes in this roster and their scheme, is the fact that they have to win by running the football. And you can't really run the football well enough when you are constantly trailing. And so, that fourth quarter, yes, it was impressive to score 21 points, but that's also Texas in soft coverage and maybe keeping their foot off the gas a little bit. So, it's going to come down to two things. Can Vanderbilt run the ball this weekend against Auburn? Because Auburn, if there is one thing that the Tigers do well, it is stop the run.
Right.
Yeah. And can they win the time of possession? And that is the reoccurring stat across all of Vanderbilt's wins, is that they win that TOP and they shorten the game that way. And sometimes for a lot of teams, not, this is excluding Auburn because their offense hasn't been very good, but a lot of times the best defense is to keep an offense off the field, which is what you would have hoped to do to Texas, but they couldn't because they were playing catch-up the entire time. So we'll see. This is going to be kind of an ugly game, I think, because the teams that stop the run really well have done really well against Vanderbilt. You saw Texas do it last week. You saw Mizzou almost beat them here in Nashville a couple weeks ago, and that one was ugly. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one is a grinder, guys.
Absolutely. There you see some of the numbers that you were referring to, the fact that Auburn has been very stingy there against the run. With that being said, do you expect Pavia to open it up a little bit more, the offense to open up a little bit more for him to throw it, maybe 30, 40 times in this football game and attack the Tigers downfield? Kind of the inverse of what we typically see. Teams usually try to run the ball to set up the pass. Do you think it might be the opposite here, given how solid Auburn is against the run?
Yeah, if there was a game where Diego Pavia is just going to let it loose on that front, this is probably it right now. I want to say that, they're not going to get too far away from what they like to do, and Clark Lee knows this team wins up front in the trenches, and they run the ball really well. And so I think they maybe establish it just to keep Auburn a little bit honest, but I do expect a big-time Pavia game. I think they has the weapons to do it. Obviously, Eli Stowers was one of the bright spots. He caught a touchdown against Texas and has been, their top target all year long, as you see him right there on the screen. Yep. Diego Pavia also, I think came back down to earth a little bit after a lot of the talk of, heck yeah, I want to win the Heisman, and I feel like I should be in that conversation, and a lot of the quotes that he was saying over the last few weeks. I think this is the perfect get-right game for not just Vanderbilt's offense, but Vanderbilt's defense as well, because you talk about the college football playoff, guys. Yes, Vanderbilt doesn't necessarily control their own destiny right now. They're going to need some help, but out of the other SEC teams that have 2 losses, Vanderbilt's probably have the most favorable schedule and path the rest of the way.
Absolutely. And Clark Lee talked about that a little bit, being able to be the team that's kind of under the radar, so to speak, and people writing them off. Let's hear from Coach.
I don't really consume anything outside these walls. This is about our team needing to play better, and that team that we showed up with for the first 3 quarters, I don't know how you don't write it off. I mean, we didn't play well, and we didn't play like a team that had something at stake, and I credit Texas with that, but I also challenge our guys to show up and again, play Vanderbilt football. So we don't worry about whatever the perception is externally or whatever those things are. It's just about, how here late in the season do we line up and play a way that we're proud of, knowing that the game honors toughness. And when you play the game the right way, the game rewards you. That's what we're going to focus on this week.
Julian, I know you talked a little bit about Diego Pavia wanting to win the Heisman and all the talk about that. And then back in the offseason, there was talk about Pavia, saying we're going to win a national championship. We're gonna make the college football playoff. You mentioned that they don't control their own destiny, but do you see a scenario where Vanderbilt still can get in, and how feasible is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I just mentioned, out of the rest of the SEC teams like Texas, Oklahoma, Mizzou, those ones, and of course Vanderbilt, out of all of those teams that with 2 losses and they're kind of on the outside looking in right now, Vanderbilt's path is the most favorable. Of course, you got Auburn, which is a game that you should win. You have Kentucky after a bye week, which is a game that you should win. And then you got the tough one in Knoxville on the road against Tennessee, which, yes, that'll be a tough game, but it's a rivalry game and anything can happen. These other teams, you look at Texas, for example, this past weekend. Yes, they have the head-to-head against Vanderbilt right now, but they still got to play Georgia and they still got to play A&M. Right. Oklahoma's got a tough sledding of it, and Vanderbilt already beat Missouri. So, yes, Vanderbilt's going to have to win out, and they are going to need some help. They are going to need some of these other conferences, like the Big 12, for example, only get 1 team in. They should be rooting for BYU to beat Texas Tech, so Texas Tech has 2 losses after this weekend. Right. So there is a feasible path, but it means nothing unless they win these games. And it starts with Auburn this week.
So if they do win these games, and we're all for hypotheticals here, I see a scenario where Texas and Oklahoma both lose because they still have to play Georgia, Texas A&M, and Alabama for Oklahoma. And I see a scenario where it could come down to 10-2 Vanderbilt and Michigan for that last college football playoff spot. Does a Michigan win over number 1 Ohio State get them in the playoff over Vanderbilt's resume as of right now?
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah.
That is tough. And if you're the CFP committee and you're looking at to sell tickets and market the tournament, yeah, Michigan's probably the better. I mean, if we're just being honest.
Yeah.
Right. But and the problem with Vanderbilt is, they had the number 2 toughest schedule in the country coming into the season, but that schedule doesn't look as tough anymore, considering LSU is not as good as we thought. South Carolina is not as good as we thought. Even Texas, who is the preseason number 1, isn't as good as we thought. What's Vanderbilt's best win if they were to win out? Probably on the road at Tennessee, if that does happen, and maybe at home against Missouri. So, I would love to see the Commodores in there. I think it's a great story, and it's not just because I cover the team, but I think it's an awesome story, and to have a personality like Diego Pavia in there is awesome. But Michigan, if that does happen, like we're talking about scenarios, they are a big brand, and brand recognition in college football, as you guys know, is everything.
Yep, exactly. It's everything. And speaking of brand, Diego Pavia has his own brand. One final football thing before we spring over to basketball. Diego Pavia is in a really unique situation because he beat Auburn as the quarterback of the New Mexico State. He beat Auburn as a quarterback of the Vanderbilt Commodores last year. He has a chance to beat Auburn 3 times in his career. Do you expect any time over the course of the 60 minutes on Saturday he's going to remind Auburn of that and say, hey, look, guys, I've had your number for your entire career here?
Knowing Diego, there might be some sort of celebration in the end zone where he I don't know if he's going to hush the Auburn fans that are there or what have you. I mean, everything's on the table when it comes to Diego Pavia. If I'm Auburn, I'm thinking like, man, what do I have to do to get away from this guy?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like there's just guys that just have your number. And I think also you think about it, Auburn's catching Diego Pavia and this Vanderbilt team at probably the worst time.
No
any other time of Auburn football, they're beating up on a Vanderbilt team, but it's the way this team is built. Clark Lee's Vanderbilt with Diego Pavia, who has your number. It's kind of a recipe for disaster. Now, I will say there is a chance of an interim coach bump that Auburn could get.
Yes. Yeah.
But after seeing that game against Kentucky last week, which was a fireable offense, by the way, I just don't see how Vanderbilt loses this one. I mean, you score 17 to 20 points, you're probably safe, and that's not as much as Vanderbilt is used to scoring this season.
And that's right on average for what the Auburn defense has been giving up this year.
Right. And like Julian said, I think you can trust the fact that Auburn's offense won't be able to score that much to keep it on board. Speaking of scoring, going over to basketball, north of the century mark for the basketball team. The men's basketball team scored 105 points in their win over Lipscomb in the season opener. For those that don't keep up with this team year to year, week to week, what are some of the dynamic standpoints for this basketball team and the kind of team the Commodores put on the floor this year?
Yeah, this is interesting. Similar to the football team, they're coming off a year which, they had some postseason success. They got to the NCAA tournament, which, right. Under Jerry Stackhouse, things weren't that great for Vanderbilt basketball. But Mark Byington has got these guys bought in. And we're going to see how this team can handle that success and kind of have a little bit of a target on their back that, hey, we can't write these guys off. So that's the similarities of the football program. Now, just like with any other college basketball program, particularly one like Vanderbilt, everyone's going through a time of transfer portal and change and turnover every single year. Mm-hmm. And Vanderbilt's going to have to replace Jason Edwards, who was their starting point guard, leading scorer, and the one guy at the end of the game where if the play breaks down or we're in a close game and we need a bucket, you can go to him. Vanderbilt, through the start of this season, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they lose some of these non-conference games, even if it's to a lesser opponent, because they are still trying to figure out what roles guys are in. Like, who is the guy I can trust in that situation, mm-hmm. is what Mark Byington is thinking. Now, they have Tyler Tanner, who is a Gatorade Player of the Year in Tennessee. He was kind of a bench player last year, but played in a lot of crunch time minutes. He's being touted as like the next big-time guard here at Vanderbilt. Maybe since Darius Garland. Wow. And the kid's only a sophomore. Now, I'm not going to say this kid's NBA ready right now, mm-hmm. but you think of the size and the measurables and just what gets you into the tournament and deep into March is really good guard play and depth up front. So Vanderbilt has this young up-and-coming guard you're looking for ascension this year, and they also got bigger this offseason. They added some size to this team through the transfer portal. So it's the same attitude, but maybe a little bit different outlook on how they are going to play, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together.
Absolutely. You teed that one up perfectly. We got a chance to hear from Coach Byington about Tyler Tanner going into this season.
Yeah, I thought his energy was great. And that's his offensive energy, his defensive energy, whether it was getting steals or applying pressure. We really wanted to go after them. We thought they had one ball handler. And so we thought with the pressure that Tyler Tanner could put on them and Frankie Collins could put on them, that could sway the game in our favor. And those guys did that. So he made shots. He's been playing really good basketball. I just keep saying this. There's going to be a step up from last year. So whatever you saw last year, I think he was great in that role. His role is different this year.
So speaking of this basketball team, as you project this forward, I know they're one game into the season and they're playing north of 30, but given the fact that everybody stays healthy and there's no major injuries, what are some reasonable expectations for this basketball team as they move forward?
Well, I do think there is a path to the tournament for this team. Remember, they were picked last in the SEC last year, yep. and they came storming all the way back to make the tournament. Now, you're going to have to take care of business in conference play. I think, when you face teams like Florida and Arkansas and Auburn every single year, mm-hmm. The non-conference, I don't want to say it means nothing, but it's so early in the season that the SEC schedule kind of takes care of itself.
Right.
So they're going to have to win some of these games and surprise some teams. We remember they upset Kentucky last year. We remember there's a number of teams they upset last year, particularly at home. And so can you continue that success, especially for a team that may not be as experienced as far as some of the returners you're bringing back, such as a Tyler Tanner, but guys that just know how to win. So we'll see how that works out for the Commodores. But I do think there is a path to the NCAA tournament for sure.
Absolutely. This is kind of an off-the-wall question. I don't know if you've got a chance to cover a Vanderbilt home basketball game. Do you like the weird setup or do you hate the weird setup? Because I've never been there, and I don't know. On television, my eyes tell me I really hate it. But maybe as a shooter or somebody who's worked there, you might like it. Give me some insight.
Well, it is wide for like shooting like the camera. There's a lot of space. I'll tell you that, just because the benches aren't like on top of of the court necessarily. It's an elevated kind of floor, and the seats are kind of below at eye level. So that's what kind of makes it interesting. It makes it a little bit extra work for some of the students who want to storm the court. I know that happened a couple times last year. But man, in my career, I've been to some and covered some interesting gyms. I used to cover the University of Oregon over in Eugene, and they have the trees on the court.
Goodness.
Yeah. And we actually, in those games, we shot from up top, and so it wasn't the most TV friendly seeing that, the silhouette of the trees in the forest on the court.
Right.
So this is a little bit better than that from the standpoint that there's a lot of room to shoot. But, just from a depth perception standpoint for a basketball player, I could see how it can kind of screw with shooters because there's so much open space that it seems like the hoop is just standing kind of in the middle of an ocean.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's how. So I grew up a big Syracuse Orange fan, and the thing that would always go around college basketball is, man, no one can shoot in the dome because the backdrop is so deep, and you really don't see that. It really doesn't come in handy until you make the Final Four, because now we play the Final Four in these big football stadiums, and then the backdrop there is just unreal.
Yeah, so your eyesight is so used to the sight lines.
Yeah, it's interesting. Vanderbilt's gym is a lot like, it's kind of like a Broadway play. Some NBA teams do this where the surrounding seat areas are kind of darkened and low lit, and then the court is illuminated, almost like you're seeing a Broadway play, which certainly puts a spotlight on the team when everybody is heckling them. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Good stuff there. Julian, you've been awesome. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the Auburn fans that come to town there. I'm telling you, they're a crazy bunch, but they'll have a lot of fun there. And thanks for your insight both on the gridiron and on the court.
Yeah, thank you guys. Talk to you next time.
Absolutely. Julian Minizone out of Nashville. We purposely did not talk anything Tennessee Titans last time he came on. We were talking about, because the last time he came on was actually the game right before.
No, Callahan had just fired.
Got fired.
Like earlier that week.
That's
but
right.
We didn't have a show on that Monday.
Right.
It came out on Monday, and we were like, man, here we go. And then Cam Ward's going to have to deal with another offensive coordinator and head coach probably.
Yep, but thank goodness the Vanderbilt Athletics are holding fort there for Julian, Corey, and our friends.
It's almost baseball season too for them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. There's a lot of good stuff to look out for there in the winter and spring sports for the Vanderbilt Commodores. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we keep it rolling, checking in on the Bama LSU matchup next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus on a Friday afternoon, gearing up for another big weekend in college football. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you. This Alabama-LSU game usually comes in with a lot of hype. Both teams come off a bye. There's usually a lot at stake. Not that much this time around. We'll break it down with our good friend Scott Griffin out of Birmingham, Alabama. Scott, at the beginning of the season, you would think a big matchup with Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Brian Kelly, Kalen DeBoer. This might be a top 5 matchup. Here we are, LSU playing their first game after firing their head coach. Alabama absolutely on a roll here. What's your overall general consensus of Alabama-LSU not feeling the same this year?
It definitely doesn't feel the same, as you guys know, for obvious reasons. However, something's gnawing at me, telling me that it's going to be the same as far as a close, hard-fought game. Okay. I think they've gravitated toward Frank Walton, the interim coach. I think he's gone in there and simplified things. I think the players weren't crazy about Brian Kelly. You saw Nussmeier's reaction last week when he took him out of the game. There just wasn't a like there.
Right.
And so I think, and then they obviously have talent. So, Nussmeier hasn't played to whatever his capabilities are. There he is.
Yeah.
And he's 10th in the SEC in passing yards. He's got 1,800 yards. That cat right there is like 3rd or 4th. So I think he's 3rd.
Right.
Ty Simpson. So not the yards mean anything, but Nussmeier was supposed to be possibly a Heisman candidate, and he's not even close.
Yep.
So I got a sneaky feeling that this one's going to be closer than they think in a pretty difficult game.
Absolutely, and you teed my next question up perfectly with the Heisman, because it's actually Ty Simpson who's the Heisman Trophy guy that can have another Heisman moment in this primetime game against LSU. 8 weeks through the season, going through the bye week last week, what do you make of what Ty Simpson is, and do you think that he has another level where he can be, like you said, the Heisman Trophy winner and all that going into the final part of the season?
Well, I think, if he continues on the path he's going, he's definitely going to be in New York.
Yes.
Could he win the Heisman? Certainly he could, but he'll definitely be in New York. And I just saw something again today. Pro Football Focus has him as the #1 choice in the NFL draft. I think he's that too. I think he's a coach's son. He thinks the game. We've seen him make great plays where he scrambles and then pitches it right over the head to like a Daniel Hill or somebody going down the sidelines. So he makes plays with his legs, with his eyes, and with his mind. And I think he's really, really good at that. And obviously sitting for, 3 years has helped him. He's got a good arm. He makes all the throws. He has escapability. He's a leader.
Yeah.
All the corny things that we say about quarterbacks, he checks all the corny boxes for sure.
Scott, when we were watching this game against South Carolina before the open week, it was definitely one of Alabama's weaker games since the opening loss. Are you chalking that up to just you can't get up for every game and they were desperately trying to limp into the bye, or is there a little bit of a concern there moving forward?
I think it's, me personally, it's more so the former of what you're talking about. It's such a daunting schedule.
Yes.
That's the only one that wasn't in the top 25 of the 5-week stretch, right? And it's on the road, and South Carolina's playing better. Of course, they fired Mike Shula right after that, so their offense wasn't gelling very well. But I just think it was a difficult circumstance. Let's be honest. There may not be parity in college football, but it's a lot closer now because you can't pay everybody. We had this thinking, right, that the rich get richer, and they do because they're going to get the best players, but they can't pay everybody. They've got a budget. Right. So now all these other schools can pay. So there's players everywhere. And this is just a personal opinion. I think they got a little cute on offense. This Caden Proctor lining up from the 3.
Right.
He's not used to running the ball. What if somebody takes his knees out? Because that's how I'm tackling him. That wouldn't be pretty.
Right.
And he's your best run blocker, but you decided to take him off the line to put him at tailback. It's gotten cute now.
You're right.
Stop it.
Right.
Stop it. Let him play offensive tackle. It was cool for a couple of plays. Be done with it. Let's run the offense.
I agree with you. I thought that they were starting to drink their own Kool-Aid on just the creativity of the whole offense and putting Proctor in there. And it felt like you said, at first it felt creative and, okay, make your opponent have to, address something different. And then now, like you said, it's gotten to where it's kind of almost counterintuitive to what you do the best.
Yeah. I mean, we gave him a taste of it, right?
Right.
So he should be happy. We don't have to run 2 plays every game for him, I don't think, right? So, and when I say we, I'm talking about like you're on the coach's staff. So
right.
That's a little cute for my blood, and they need to figure that out. They got to get the running game going still, but at least they have the attempts, as we've talked about all year. Mm-hmm. And I still think the attempts are important to getting that 34.4 points. Their rushing yards, as you see, is not great, but it's not completely horrible. And the attempts to get the rushing yards, you still have to respect the attempts.
Right.
So far it's working. We'll see.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from Coach Kalen DeBoer about this rivalry, Alabama and LSU, here in November.
Well, this is going to be a physical game. It was last year. I think it always has been. That's the tradition here. You can see what their team is made up of. It's physical players. I think they got elite skill, both offensively and defensively, whether it's coverage or being able to win on the perimeter and the running backs as well. So, this rivalry goes way back. You do the introduction with our team and talk about I think it was 1895, if I remember right, doing the research, and that's a lot of games that have happened between these two schools, and so we're looking at this as one of those rivalry games that I was told much about when I first got here. So it's going to be, again, a great environment, a lot of pride, both for our program and theirs as well.
Scott, the first college football playoff committee rankings came out earlier this week, and Alabama was in the top 4 and would have a first-round bye if the playoffs were to start right now. Could you see Alabama running the table the rest of the way and still getting that first-round bye?
Yeah, I think this week is daunting a little bit. Yeah. The next week, Oklahoma has an off week to prepare for Alabama, but it is at Alabama. So Alabama's, they're favored and will be because they're at home virtually the rest of the season, correct? Right. 3 straight at home, and then Auburn. They don't have to leave the state. That works in their favor. But Oklahoma and LSU will be daunting, and who knows about Auburn? Normally they're daunting anyway because it's a rival game. If they get some confidence in their next couple of games, that could be really big, and that's going to be at Auburn. So if you made me say, I think they win out and they're at least in the top 4. Mm-hmm. If you made me say it.
Right.
That's not without taking some caution, though.
Yeah. And I think that's actually, that's actually my prediction there as well. And I think that's actually what's going to play out. One more final football thing before we move over to basketball. I think, Scott, since the last time we have talked to you, the only SEC job that was open was Arkansas. Since then, we've gotten Florida, we've gotten LSU, and the latest now, the Auburn Tigers. If you can, put a bow on what you've seen overall with the college football coaching carousel, how early it is right now, and how we're seeing coaches get fired a lot earlier right now in this carousel, and what jobs and the timing of all this as far as getting their replacements.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting, right? We all know Lane Kiffin will have the biggest opportunity if he wants it. Personally, I think he would be nuts to take any of these because in the older days, there was a difference between, and this will get me in trouble as usual, between Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and then Ole Miss, LSU, whatever.
Right.
He's 6th in the country at Ole Miss.
Yes.
So you're gonna go somewhere to do what exactly? Mm-hmm. Pay you more? I think he's in the top 5 and getting paid.
Right.
You're going to have a chance to win more, or you're winning at Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. So this new age of moving to a program because I grew up wanting to be the ex-coach, I don't know if that's going to be a factor. If I were betting, I would say he's staying put at Ole Miss. We'll see.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do? I mean, coaching's so crazy. To your point, Gerhard, James Franklin's a candidate for jobs, and he was just fired at Penn State.
Yes.
Why in the world would Auburn hire a fired coach?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me. And that's no disrespect to him. I think he's a good coach. He just didn't get it completely done at Penn State. So it's going to be interesting to see which one wins out. You could argue Auburn's a great job. You could argue Florida might be the best job. LSU's got all the talent in the state, but look at the pressure. They fired before Brian Kelly, they fired the last 3 coaches and they won national titles.
Right.
I mean, wow.
Exactly.
So, but is it a good job? Yeah. Can they pay? Sure. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all shakes out. They all can't hire the one hot guy.
Right.
To your point, we haven't seen this many big time jobs open in a while.
In a long time. Yeah. In a long.
I do think
time.
Auburn. I do have an opinion on Auburn. I think they need to stay away from the cutesy play caller. They're paying the last 3 to not coach, over $50 million combined. So they need the Pat Dye, Tommy Tuberville, my opinion again.
Yeah.
Defensive-minded, tough guy. And I think Summerall, Brent Key, and Clark Lee would be my 3. But again, Clark Lee might go, I'm the king at Vandy. He was number 9, right, before loss. They were number 9 in America. You don't have to go anywhere to do that damage.
Exactly. And I'm with you. I think Auburn's next coach needs to be a little bit more what kind of style of coach you have to get, more CEO, and like you said, more of a hard-nosed guy that'll be like Pat, that'll be like Pat Dye, really set more of a culture than like a cutesy play caller like a Ben Johnson or whoever the case is that is kind of like the next scheme guy. Let's turn it over to the basketball court really quickly, because Alabama has really turned into a powerhouse. I mean, this used to be a football school that you paid attention to basketball late January after the national championship's already done. But Nate Oates has built a powerhouse. They've been the number 1 overall seed. Last year, they make a deep run. What are your expectations of this year's Alabama team with what they have coming back this season?
Well, it's interesting because while most teams have started completely over, maybe have a couple of guys back, like UAB, who's in Birmingham, have a complete new roster, if you can imagine that.
Right.
Nobody literally on this team last year, which is amazing. Alabama had 5 returning, which is a ton in this day and time.
Yep.
So they got a great blend, I think, of 4 freshmen that have already played well. They've got the guys back like Aiden Holloway, LeBaron Philon, who's up for the Naismith Award. There he is right there with a finger roll. Houston Mallett is just getting gushed about by Nate Oates. Latrell Wrightsell, who's coming off that Achilles. They've got veteran big guards, and what wins in the NCAA still? Big veteran guards. And they've got enough talent inside. They've got enough transfers. I think it's going to be a good, strong year for Alabama and the SEC. But again, the SEC's loaded. It's the SEC, right? So you got Florida, you got Kentucky, Calipari's got 2 of the best freshmen Arkansas's ever had, they're saying.
Right.
Auburn's going to be better than people think. So it's going to be good. But Oates has done a great job. He continues to recruit at a Nick Saban-like level.
Yes.
And he just can get it done. Of course, they just boarded a plane a little while ago to go play St. John's and your boy Rick Pitino. So we're going to find out pretty early where they are.
I was actually going to ask you about that. How much do you think this trip will help them out in the postseason, being able to go to a big arena with a team that made a deep run last year, with a coach that has national championship rings on his fingers, both at Kentucky and at Louisville, and then this game as it relates to their whole schedule, because this is a very tough non-conference schedule, even let alone the SEC games. But they obviously will play, Purdue, as you see right here, Illinois, Gonzaga, St. John's there. What do you make of this non-conference game on Saturday, and how it kind of fits into the bigger picture of what Nate Oates is trying to build this year?
Well, it's going to be great because Pitino's done that in like a year or so, rebuilt his team. So on the road, Madison Square Garden, you hope guys don't hyperventilate and they play their game. It's going to be a very interesting take. It'll be a test for his team. He could sit there and grade papers. He's an analytics math nerd anyway, right? So he'll take a look at that. And then next Thursday, all they have is the number 1 team in America. But they're coming here. So he'll get a really good taste in that 4-game stretch you just said, but really in these next 2 to see where he is. But he likes that. He would rather go 10-6, or and I don't know if they're playing 16 non-conference games, but
right.
reasons to speak. He'd rather go 10-6 and be really ready for the conference and know what his team is about than to go 13-3 or 14-2,
right,
and not know exactly what he has. And I think that's the right way to coach. He feels comfortable at Alabama. He knows he's got strength there, and he doesn't mind losing a few games or possibly losing a few games. And it seems to work, right?
Yeah.
They're the only team in America that's been to a Final Four and Elite Eight in the last 2 years. So something's working.
Yep, and you mentioned the consistency with his roster and consistency with the outcomes overall. Got a chance to hear from Coach just ahead of that matchup against St. John's.
We will. We'll have some guys ready. We'll have the rotation a little bit better. We'll put the guys that play hard, because St. John's plays extremely hard. That's why they're good. We'll put the hard-playing guys in the team. We'll put the guys in that can take care of the ball. We'll make sure we got a little bit better plan to hopefully attack the pressure on the defensive end. But we're gonna get better over these next 4 games. That's for sure. I don't know what our record's gonna be after the 4, and that doesn't really concern me as much as getting better every game. We got to beat our best come SEC play. I think playing a bunch of cupcakes and teams that don't really expose your weaknesses, if you will, will get exposed here in these next 4 games. I just don't think you get that much better.
So interesting non-conference matchup for Alabama. Before we let you go, Scott, I have to ask you personally about the Auburn Tigers. I know you keep up with them as well.
Yeah.
Does DJ Durkin lead Auburn to Nashville and get a win over Vanderbilt? How do you expect this Auburn team to perform first game? No Hugh Freeze.
I feel the same way about Auburn, Gerhard, that I do about LSU. I think they've got a guy in there they can believe in. Not that they disliked Freeze like LSU guys didn't like Brian Kelly, but just to let out a breath of fresh air, relax, and just go play with no pressure, right? I think they're going to be dangerous. I think they're simplifying the offense. I think Derek Nix is the one voice that's going to be in the headset of Ashton Daniels or Jackson Arnold with what happens. And there won't be a play call coming from him and Freeze getting the play call in late because he overrules and this confusion.
Right.
They'll clean it up. So it's going to be interesting because obviously their defense is playing at a championship level. And they have players. Look, they got Singleton, they got Coleman at receiver, they've got Cobb, they should have Alston, but Freeze fumbled that too. They should have 2 really good backs. Offensive line's porous, but they can get the ball out, and if Daniels uses his legs or Arnold, and they can get the ball to Singleton and Coleman. And just a personal opinion again, I don't know if I've said it on here, and what's odd is I talked to I won't say his name, but a prominent high school coach last night at a game I was at. And he's the former roommate of Derek Nix at Southern Miss. And we were talking about it. And I'm like, it just seems like Hugh Freeze, went bananas on the RPO, in my opinion. It's just RPO, 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 RPO. Well, you can't do that these days.
No.
And he agreed with me, and he talked to Nix about it. So if you got Coleman and Singleton, you got a 6'4", 6'3" receiver, you got to call predetermined pass plays. You got to call predetermined running plays to Cobb or whoever. You can't leave it in the quarterback's lap every time and just call right or left an RPO. So Freeze was at the forefront of the RPO, obviously at Ole Miss, and did very well, but he's never evolved. And as you know, this stuff evolves, and the RPO is cool to use every now and then. But you've got to get the ball to your weapons and not leave it up to the quarterback to decide. Just a personal opinion.
Really interesting.
I think Auburn's going to play better than we think.
Absolutely. Okay. I like it. I like it. Really interesting insight and really awesome because vis-a-vis Alabama using Caden Proctor too much and then them using the Auburn using RPO too much. I like that balance there. You should be a consultant either for Alabama or for Auburn.
Because you remember Thorne? Remember Thorne against Oklahoma?
Perfect.
At the home game last year?
Perfect example.
Jarquez Hunter, really good, right? Last time I checked, instead of handing the ball to him with the lead,
Yep.
Well, don't leave it in his hands.
Yep.
Hand the ball to 2-7.
Exactly.
Give it to him.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, one of the best
that's my complaint about Hugh Freeze.
Absolutely.
We'll see.
Hey, I know a team in Columbia, South Carolina that's looking for an offensive guy. So maybe you should put your resume in.
Are you saying you want Freeze to go to South Carolina?
No, I'm saying I want you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Scott, you are awesome, man. Thank you so much for all your time and your insight.
All right, guys. I'll see you later.
Absolutely. Scott Griffin joining us from Birmingham, and I think he nailed both points right there on the head as it relates to Auburn's offense, Alabama's offense. And there's some interesting, and don't just talk going to kill LSU, and don't just chalk it up to Vandy's going to kill Auburn. I think he made some great points.
I had it in my overreaction the other day. I think that there's going to be one team that's going to play spoiler here this weekend. Don't know who.
Right.
But I just have a weird feeling because it's starting to get to that time of the year where teams, they're out of the mix, but they're still going to try to knock the other teams out as well.
100%. Great first hour here on Southeast Sports Plus. Hour number 2 comes your way next. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here. We will close up shop here in this first hour talking a little broadcasting. Now, we have seen some faces and names change over the course of the last few years. Tony Romo now in the booth, and I know this is not a new thing for quarterbacks to be in the booth. This goes all the way back. I remember back when Phil Simms was in the booth for a while. Boomer Esiason was in the booth for a little while. Now, Drew Brees, another former NFL quarterback star, will make its broadcast debut there for Fox in Week 11. What do you make of another great quarterback putting on the headset?
Yeah, I'm excited because even though I'm not a New York Saints fan and never really have been, I think Drew Brees is one of the greatest humans, not just players. He's great in his own right. I believe he was the passing yards leader until Brady overtook him, because Brady played a few more years after that.
Yeah.
I just think that this is a great opportunity not only for him but for the sport in general. I also go back to what he's done for the city of New Orleans, especially after Hurricane Katrina, and that helped him win Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, I believe, with LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yes,
that's
exactly right. Yes, exactly right. And do we know, has he put on an assignment for the game? Is it in New Orleans? What game is it?
No, we don't know the assignments yet because it's Week 11, which is next week in the NFL season. We just know he's going to be with Adam Amin.
Which I think he'll be great there in that role. And it's always good to have quarterback insight because, the quarterbacks are the one position, and this is no disrespect to any other position, but they're the one position they know what everybody's doing. And so they have bring up tendencies and all kinds of stuff. So they understand how to break it down for your novice fan.
And I think the only other non-quarterback that really you can make an argument for is Greg Olsen. I feel like Greg Olsen's insight on games is really good.
Yeah.
It's just when you have Tom Brady come to the table, you kind of have to just make him the number one and then move Greg Olsen. But who knows if Greg stays with Fox, maybe I know there's some rumors that he might try to go to a different network to be their number one, but I don't know who it would be.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe Chris Collinsworth retires soon.
Probably, yeah. That'd be interesting.
That'd be the only one I could think of.
That would be very, very interesting. Yeah, so looking forward to that. As you mentioned, Drew Brees' impact on New Orleans and football overall. Now he's doing it from the booth and bringing insights for the Fox game in Week 11 in the NFL. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we kick off hour number 2 with some basketball talk, some tall talk, literally.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Olivier.
Yeah.
What was the decision-making process there, and just what was the excitement level you think he had?
I mean, listen, he's put in a lot of great work, and to his credit, he's kept a great attitude without getting a lot of reward in terms of playing time and opportunity, and he went into this year knowing that our ability to get the front court to come back was going to limit his opportunities. I think he was pretty excited. It's pretty neat for him to finally see the floor. I would have liked him to get a touch. But Meek was kind of cooking out there, and some other guys were getting some shots, and there's people yelling at me at halftime about playing them, and I was like, listen, it'll happen. The time will come. And I'm, as you guys, I can be stubborn. I don't listen to direction very well at times. So when they're yelling at me to do it, it kind of is like, all right, maybe I'll wait a little longer.
Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 2. That is the coach of the defending national champion Florida Gators, talking about another record. Yes. The SEC set a record last year with 14 teams in the Big Dance, and Florida was the final team cutting the nets in San Antonio as the national champion. I think the record they have this year is even cooler. They just put on the floor 7'9" Olivier Ryu, and he officially becomes the tallest player to play in a college basketball game.
I mean, look at the basketball. It looks like a
grape in his hands.
It's like one of those basketballs you give like your toddler.
Yes, exactly.
And he like just goes and dunks it on the mini hoop. I mean, that's actually it looks like when he plays basketball that he's just playing on the mini hoop. Yep. When he's like 5 years old.
It's insane.
Look at that. Like, it's unreal.
Just how big he is. 104-64, Florida beating North Florida. And they're in that matchup because Florida was winning so much. Ryu got into the game, and you heard Coach Golden say that it was, honestly, I watched a clip of right before, because obviously they were winning the game by a million. Right. They were going to put him in. But the moment, because once you get up by 40 points, people just kind of on their phones checking out, whatever. But as soon as Ryu took his warm-ups off and he was about to check into the game, you would have thought that Florida was going on this like 13-1 run because the crowd just goes crazy. And you heard from Coach Golden kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, I thought about just bitching him, keeping him on the sideline for just a little bit, but. It's a cool energy to have, to be able to have that kind of guy get in there and then be able, for his sake, to be able to get on the court.
Yeah, I have two things about what you just said. First of all, my varsity basketball coach, Coach Thompson, if you're watching this, thanks for kind of playing with the fans the one time I got in the game. I was last off the bench in high school. I was never good at basketball.
We saw some of those videos, by the way. Well, they're great.
Maybe on Monday I'll play one of them on here just so that way I can publicly shame myself. But there was one game where we were up by a lot against a team that just wasn't really that good. Mm. And so he comes over to me. I think I got in maybe 4 or 5 games that year.
Right.
He comes over to me at the end of the bench, and he's like, hey. So I know the fans, like the student section, really wants you to get in the game. But what you're going to do is you're going to go over, act like you're checking in with the scorer's table, but actually go and just get a drink of water from the water fountain. So I kid you not. I'm like, all right, coach, I got you. And then I get up, and I start running. The crowd goes crazy, absolutely nuts. It would have, like you mentioned, it would have been like, we just went on like a 20-0 run.
Right.
And then I went over to the water fountain, and everyone was like, oh, boo. I did end up getting into the game.
I love the fact that your coach was so forward-thinking. It was just like, you know what? How about this? We're winning this game by a lot. Let's poke the bear a little bit with these fans here. Honestly, I just love it. But you said he did put you in.
He put me in. I made a layup that game. That was 2 of 8 points I scored that year.
Hey, that year.
That year.
Okay.
But on the other side, when I went to the Final Four this past year, going back to Florida, and I was just walking in the tunnels underneath the Alamo Dome.
Right.
And I just saw – I knew about Olivier, but I didn't know exactly what he looked like.
Right.
And how tall he actually was. So I just see all of these – I think it was like Thomas Haw and Alex Condon were just like walking by.
Right.
I'm like, is that Olivier? And then I see a guy that is honestly, I kid you not, he was this close from hitting the ceiling with his head.
Wow.
Walking down. Yeah. And I'm just looking at him like
that is just, it's insane.
Like,
yeah.
Hello? How can someone be that tall?
And like it just like makes you wonder like how do they live, everything about your life is so different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know that he's in a basketball culture right now, so he's with a lot of taller people, but he is taller than a lot of even those tall people. You know what I mean?
These guys are like 6'8".
Yes,
and they're making him look small.
Correct. That's the biggest thing. This is a hilarious picture, by the way, an absolutely hilarious picture. But I know you and I are not at basketball practice, so we don't get this chance to see him. Do they think that he's got enough in his game to help develop where he can actually be a consistent, maybe not even a starter, but just a guy that can go give you 8 to 12 minutes a game?
Yeah, I think so. But the only problem, and Todd Golden mentioned it in that soundbite, when you have Alex Condon and Thomas Haw, who both were major contributors down the stretch for Florida in their national championship run last year, it almost feels like you're handcuffed right there. You're just stuck waiting.
Right.
And I think he's going to get his chance. It's just probably not going to be this year, barring an injury to one of them.
Right.
But honestly, I could see like a Taco Fall type comparison.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we remember going back to, I believe it was 2018, 2019, the most hyped up game in March Madness, in my opinion, was Duke UCF. Taco Fall versus Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
And Zion, I don't remember if Zion did dunk on Taco Fall. I think he tried to.
Yeah, I know he tried. To, and I don't know if he actually successfully pulled it off or not. I feel like he dunked over everybody, but I remember that just being an interesting time of year there in the NCAA championship with another huge basketball player. But Florida does get the win, and it's all smiles because Ryu comes in, but they don't look very great. And this is a team that did not look great in their season opener against Arizona earlier in the week. And now coming out, okay, North Florida, they were supposed to beat North Florida, but maybe some growing concerns. How do you break down this team after 80 minutes?
Well, I think some people are going to be like, well, how can you not look great even though you score 104 points?
Right.
And my thing for that is you still can't hit the three-pointer. And that's going to be a problem going forward. I think about what gets you through March Madness. Great coaching, great guard play. We saw that last year with Will Richard and Walter Clayton. We haven't really seen Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland come into their own yet. Lee and Haw combined against North Florida, 4 for 14 from beyond the arc. And then Fland still is yet to hit a three-pointer this year.
Yeah.
And you could make the argument that he was the number one transfer or number one guard in the transfer portal at one point. So when you shoot 22%, 13 for 59 through 2 games, that's definitely something that needs to be cleaned up for Florida. I'm not too worried. Like I said, you got to expect some regression this year. I don't think that they're going to be a number 1 seed. I'm still sticking to the 3 or the 4 seed, but they'll still win a lot of games. I bet you everyone plays each other once or twice, home and home, right? I bet you they steal a game against Arkansas, they steal a game against Kentucky, enough to get them into that consideration for being a top 4 seed. And it's just, to me, it's going to be, can the guards acclimate themselves? Obviously, Xavier Lee coming over from Princeton hasn't really played. Outside of Arizona, I mean, he hasn't really played competition, not in March, quite like that.
Exactly right. There was one bright spot offensively for this basketball team without Alex Condon, who dropped 25 points, 8 of 12 from the field, hit 9 of his 10 free throws. There in the matchup, we got a chance to hear from Coach Golden on Condon.
Coming back from Vegas, we took Tuesday off, practiced yesterday, and he just had a great mentality. You know, he wasn't feeling sorry for himself or making excuses. He was just like, I'm going to get back to it and get back to what I know. And I thought he did a great job kind of letting the game come to him, being aggressive when he needed to, and had obviously a very efficient night, 25, 10, and 4 assists, only 1 turnover, 2 steals, 3 blocks. I mean, just an insane All-American level type night. So, he was disappointed. We were all disappointed with how Monday went, but I thought he answered the bell the right way tonight.
So North Florida was the first home game for this basketball team, and then of course will play Florida State coming up next. It's the sandwich game. There's 3 straight games against teams out of the state of Florida: North Florida, Florida State, and Miami. This is a really interesting matchup here against the Seminoles.
Yeah, Luke Locks was just hired as the Florida State head coach here this year, and he actually played against Florida, as you can see here, back in his playing days. He's a Florida State alum, so he knows what it's like to play in an ACC conference where, you could make the argument that the ACC fell off last year. We don't know what the ACC is going to look like this year. But I feel like Florida State could come into this game and turn some heads. And it's going to be very important for Florida to just handle business because Florida should win this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they won by at least 17. I know my last prediction, I was 1 off with basketball.
That's very true. Maybe
they'll win by 16 this time. But I see Florida, the problem that I saw with Florida coming into the year was, what are you going to get out of your guards?
Mm-hmm.
And I think eventually, as time goes on, Boogie Fland, he'll be fine. He's just got to get into Todd Golden's system. And then Xavier Lee, he's just got to slow the game down a little bit. The other problem was, who's gonna be better, Alex Condon or Thomas Haw? And it feels like Haw came out. We thought he was going to be that guy.
Right.
And then Condon comes out and is the guy this game. So, I mean, that's a good problem to have.
For sure. Absolutely a good problem to have. And they got deep into their bench last game. You expect maybe so this game. I didn't realize I just had to check the ESPN matchup predictor because I don't see a line on the game. I'm sure there is one. I don't see one as of yet. But the predictor for the ESPN analytics is 93.8%. Florida winning. That would be something that I would put against North Florida, not against Florida State. But they're saying that the Gators are way superior.
Yeah, and the only thing I could see probably about that is Florida State hasn't really been good in a few years, and who knows what Luke Locks has brought to this program. We don't really know. This will be their first true test. I know they won in their opener, so it'll be interesting to see. This is one of those where on paper it's like, man, why would I really want to watch that? But I feel like this could be a pretty entertaining matchup.
No, absolutely, no doubt. And we've already talked here some interesting matchups in the non-conference with our guests. We talked with Scott Griffin about Alabama's trip to Madison Square Garden to face St. John's, but this is just one of a handful of big-time games in and around the SEC. 18th-ranked Tennessee will take on the Norse, one of my favorite mascots, the Norse of Northern Kentucky. I love when they show up on the bracket.
Yes.
That's that 2 o'clock tip-off. And then Texas Longhorns will host the Lafayette Leopards at 2 o'clock. The game we talked about earlier with Julian, Vanderbilt and Central Florida. Big matchup there in the mid-afternoon. And then as we go towards primetime, one of the big games we talked about with Courtney Mims, Michigan State and Tom Izzo, John Calipari there in Arkansas. Two coaches.
It's a crime that's at 6 o'clock on college football.
You need a fifth TV. You need an extra TV just to be able to watch that game. I kind of wish that game was I was going to say on a Sunday, but I wish it was on a Monday or Tuesday. Either way, you have Gonzaga and Oklahoma there as well in the nightcap as the Sooners go out west there in that matchup. So lots of great basketball in store. You have to get a different monitor to be able to watch all the football and basketball on at the same time, but it's a really beautiful time on sports calendar. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head over to Austin, Texas. Check in with our good friend Levon Whitaker. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus here. Hour number 2 continues on. We head over back to Austin, Texas. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you, and happy to be joined by Levon Whitaker there out of Austin. We were talking during the break about your travels, and I'm sure last week was a nice reprieve for you because you were on the road for a really long time. Before we dive deep into the Texas Vanderbilt game and then what it means for the Longhorns moving forward, man, are you happy to finally sleep in your own bed for a week?
Man, it's been nice to be at home and, open the door with your own key and stuff. You ain't got no hotel key cards and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's been nice, man. I can't, you take the little things for granted, like, walking up the own staircase to your apartment and all that stuff. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's nice, man.
Yep, absolutely. He went to the Swamp. Then he went to the Cotton Bowl for the Oklahoma game. Then to Lexington. Then to Starkville. Then last week, Texas played at home against Vanderbilt. Got a huge win there. I think it's a really important win, really, in my opinion, a win that will be a statement win if they are to make the college football playoff. What do you make of last week's victory and what it means for this team as they spring forward with a really tough schedule ahead?
Man, I think being on the road, was good for them because they're able to come home and really appreciate their fans and give them something to root for, man. You got a tough team, like I had been saying all the entire week leading up to that game against Vanderbilt, especially after an overtime win against Mississippi State, that it didn't get easier after that. You couldn't really be relaxed if you were the Longhorns. You had to really, keep that same intensity that you left Starkville with to face one of the hottest, if not the hottest team in the country at that time in Vanderbilt, and their quarterback, Diego Pavia, and their head coach, who just does a great job, Clark Lee. And, I think it was a good stepping stone for them, especially considering you get to go on the bye week and now you got to go face Georgia, and they're in a tough spot right now because they got to go to Starkville and get all those cowbells, and I'm still hearing them ringing in my ear 2 weeks later. So good luck to those guys if they go down to Starkville. Better them than me.
Absolutely. For this team, of course, the talk and all the conversation entering the season all surrounded around the quarterback, and Arch obviously got the hype. Then I think he got beat up a little bit in the media overall as far as the overall production. And now I feel like he's rounding into form here. What do you make of what you've seen from him over those last few weeks? Not only getting the wins, but having the numbers and the performance to go with it.
Yeah, you brought up my first point, which is going to be the numbers. 300 passing yards in the last 2 weeks, 300-plus passing yards. So, and not too much rushing. I mean, he may have the rushing attempts, but they're not putting him out there to really harm himself. It's kind of like a catch-22. You kind of force the guy to be comfortable in the pocket, and you can really see that they've made some changes at the offensive line to help him gain that confidence and that trust in his offensive line to be able to stand there and move around. He has the athletic ability to evade the pocket and get away from defenders, but when you got so much talent on the outside, DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo, Jack Indries, you got a decent running back room, and C.J. Baxter and Trey Wise, and then you got this sophomore that comes on the scene. His first game was against Florida, Emmett Mosley, who had 500-plus receiving yards at Stanford. Right. That's been the key. You want him in there to help get those guys the ball and let them make some plays. I mean, you see in the last 2 games, the first play of the game goes to Ryan Wingo on a little somewhat of a wide receiver screen or tunnel, and then he's off to the races down outside the numbers. So I think he started to see trust in his teammates, and it's paid dividends. Now you just got to keep it going for these next 3 games where you got to face some really tough SEC opponents. Georgia on a run right now. Arkansas, no slouch as they made their coaching changes with firing their head coach, and you kind of get that fire coach motivation as a program, and then you still have A&M at the end of the season.
Absolutely. We've seen this Texas team win and lose in different ways. We've seen them win high-scoring games, win the overtime against Mississippi State a couple of weeks ago, score 45 points. We've seen this team also score 16 points in overtime against Kentucky in a game there. It feels like a little bit like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. However, they're on a 4-game winning streak. As you project these next 3 games, and as you mentioned, they're all really tough ones, what style of football should we expect as football fans going into those 3 games? And how, if they are to win them, how do you think Texas is able to come away with those W's?
Well, the one thing they're going to have to do is just continue to trust each other. I mean, it sounds cliche, and, as reporters and journalists, we don't like to hear that when we're talking to the players. But I've seen a real level of trust. They never counted themselves out. Ryan Niblett returns a punt return, 70-plus yards against Mississippi State. wows the entire crowd, shuts down Stark Vegas, and that was just a sign of trust for this team. And I think that's what it was in Kentucky. I couldn't really tell you how they walked out of Kentucky with the win outside of just having trust in one another, because that was just unfamiliar football from both of those teams in reality. But when you talk about the next 3 games, I think the one thing they're going to have to do to get that job done is be tight on their offensive line. Have to develop some type of run game. You can't be one-dimensional when you're playing against Georgia. Georgia has the athletic ability. They can load the box. They can go to a 9 or a nickel package and really force your receivers to find the open spaces. You can't find the open spaces, and you don't have because you can only put maybe 3 or 4 out there at a time, and now you don't have the tight end there to block. Now you just got 5 offensive linemen and hoping they can withstand the test of time to give Arch some keep him protected back there so he can get the ball out of his hands. But when you got 6 DBs on the field, it makes it a little tough. So you're going to have to get the ball to your receivers, man. I don't believe the Ryan Wingo first play of the game thing is going to really work. But, you got some gadgets out there, and guys like DeAndre Moore and Emmett Mosley. You got to catch the ball. And like I said from the beginning, you got to be able to run the ball. At some point, Trey Wisner and C.J. Baxter have to find their footing, got to stick their foot in the ground and get upfield.
Absolutely.
Now, you can't really do that without an offensive line, so it definitely starts right there. It always starts in the trenches, but at some point, these guys have to make a way out of nowhere. So
Absolutely.
See what happens.
For sure. Speaking of personnel, we got a chance to hear from Steve Sarkisian about the DBs being challenged.
I think there's a lot to Xavier to be excited about. He's got great speed. He's got great cover ability. It's situational football that we need to continue to grow on. Same with Warren. I know he's trying to quick jam the tight end. It's 3rd and 10. He didn't really need to do it in that moment. And so those experiences are where the growth needs to come. But I think we're getting better. There's some other things that for some other players that we need to see more out of, and they're going to get challenged. But that's our job as coaches to do that. And so, but I do think we're making progress. And there's going to be plenty to learn from and grow from. I'm glad Jonah played the 7 or 8 snaps that he played in this game. Again, him just being out there playing, that's the best practice he can get, is actually getting in the game and having to communicate and do those things. And so, but we need to learn from it, and we need to get better from it.
I think Texas is in a really unique situation, Levon, going into these next few weeks, because Sark is always going to say the right thing. He's always going to say, hey, we want to go 1-0 and give all the typical coach speak. But as far as it relates to the playoffs, you could just make an argument the last 3 games of the regular season games are the 3 playoff games, are 3 huge playoff games. They're facing playoff-like competition against Georgia and Texas A&M, no offense to Arkansas. And if they win those games, they will get into the real thing. How do you think that coach handles this next month of football with his football team? Not what he tells us, because what he tells us is obviously just, cotton candy. What do you think he tells this football team as they move forward into this really incredible stretch?
Hey, man, you got to roll with the punches. At the end of the day, I think that's what you got to tell these guys. Take what you're given. Make the most of the opportunity. And, hey, you got 2 home games on your side. There's a scenario where a 3-loss team can make it into the college football playoffs. You got to handle your business against one of these 2. And I think that's the reality that Sark is going to have to, let these guys know. Not everybody can go 3-0 or 2-0 against Arkansas and A&M the way they're playing right now, but I do think you have a defense to lean on. So you're going to see some low-scoring games. But I think you just got to let them, the reality is you need a win out of out of A&M or Georgia. And you get the advantage of having one of those at home, under the lights, on a Friday night, day after Thanksgiving. Eat too heavy on Thursday, but you got a heck of a game on Friday.
That's exactly right. The football team is not only the one playing against the team with a single digit by their name. The basketball team did as well. The men's basketball team played Duke earlier this week. Obviously, did not come away with the win. Got a chance to see the Duke phenomenal freshman in Cam Boozer. It's Sean Miller's first game, so obviously nobody's going to really knock him a lot because it is the Duke Blue Devils. But for those that have not seen much of Texas basketball coming into the season, what are some, not only just the expectations, but what are some playing styles you see of this team and some of the ways they can reach their fullest potential?
I like to kind of compare the 2 words. You got basketball players and you got hoopers.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, I don't think last year we saw hoopers for Texas. I think this year with Sean Miller's style of play, you're going to see some hoopers out there. You saw it last year at Xavier. You saw it during his time at Arizona. And his first stint at Xavier as well. So I think eventually these guys are going to figure it out. They seem a little robotic, and Cam Boozer kind of has that impression on guys that, you kind of don't know where to be, and you got to wall up against a guy like that who has some size, athletic ability to dribble and penetrate to the basket and shoot the ball from outside as well. So he is a monster. There's a reason that he's predicted as one of those top picks in the upcoming NBA draft.
Right.
But that's one team, and you can't build your identity off that one matchup. So eventually, Sean Miller is going to have his fingerprints all over this program, and you'll see guys like Swain and Jordan Pope and Tremar Marks and Trey Orey. You see these guys start to find their footing and be some hoopers. You might see some alley-oops, and you might see guys coming up early in the shot clock and letting it ride because they feel that confidence that Sean Miller has given them throughout the length of a very long season. And tomorrow they play, not an opponent that doesn't have the fanciest name, not ranked, but these are the times where you can try to find some type of identity before you get into conference play in 2026 when you reach that January schedule.
And that was part of the question I was going to ask was it seemed like Duke just shut down Texas. I mean, really just unable to get any offense going. Are you just chalking that up to Sean Miller's first game plus the fact that it's Duke, or is there maybe a little bit more of a concern there in that regard?
I think it's more so Duke than it is Sean Miller. I mean, that's just my opinion. But, I mean, Duke is one of those well-oiled machines. Any game they're in, you can't count them out. You almost don't need a head coach in the building when you're talking about Duke. That's just the vibe out there, at Camden. So you really hope that it's not, that's not how it's going to be for the duration of the season for Sean Miller. I think the other side of it is Sean Miller's first game, though. Don't want to put too much pressure on your guys. You give them a certain amount of set plays they're going to run. Otherwise, you let them have to go out there and hoop and play basketball. At the end of the day, you got to be a ball player. Right. On the floor because you have the athletic ability. You can shoot the rock. Guys like Kendall Weaver may not be a strong suit, but you put him out there to do what he does. He's a hustle man guy. He's your Marcus Smart. He's not going to shoot the lights out, but he's going to hustle. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to get putbacks. He's all of 6'1", maybe if that, but he's going in against guys like Boozer and grabbing offensive rebounds and making it tough on opposing teams. And I think right now that's all you really need until you can get guys going and finding out where their spots are and how long it's going to take you to get into your offensive set and defensively to your point, Patrick. At some point, you're going to have an identity there as well. And what's it going to be? Are you going to be perimeter defenders, or are you going to control the paint? Obviously, it depends on who you're playing, so you got to be versatile as a team. But I would say from Sean Miller's experience, dating, going back to DeAndre Ayton, he's a defensive-minded guy. He's going to control the paint. We saw that last year with Xavier. We saw it in that game against Texas, that first 4 games. So it's just it's going to be a challenge, nevertheless, though.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from Sean Miller about the center play against those Duke Blue Devils.
Tonight was actually the first game that either of them has played for us. They didn't participate for 3 straight weeks, and they didn't participate in either of our 2 close scrimmages. We're just thankful and happy that they are able to play tonight. So I know that part of our demise was their 9 turnovers. But, man, it's tough to go from sitting out in Lassina Traor's situation. He did not play last year for us at Xavier. He had a season-ending injury. So I think the last game that he played would have been against Arizona when he was at Long Beach State 2 tournaments ago. So it was just nice to have both of them out there. I think they gave us a physicality and an inside presence, but I also thought, tough to expect them to be a finished product. And I think some of the way we looked, the 9 turnovers between the 2 of them, it really hurt us. I felt good about our team's competitive spirit. I thought we played really hard. And what we didn't do, and I'm really surprised, is we played with no pace. And I think some of it is Duke, some of it is the first game. But, look, we want to play with a lot more pace and a lot more movement. 6 assists, 60 points, just the pace we played at, that's not what I hope we become.
Levon, when you look at the rest of this non-conference schedule, I mean, you've got a few games that really pop out. Arizona State, obviously coming from the Big 12, great basketball conference. Virginia, the ACC, looking to become a great basketball conference again. And then UConn, 2 years removed from back-to-back titles. What do you make of this schedule, and what would be a realistic expectation for record-wise for the Longhorns to say, hey, we can build some confidence off this? Because, I mean, I wouldn't expect Texas to win all 3 of those games, but what would be realistic?
Well, I think because you get 1-2 of those games at home, and I think those are the ones to steal. Arizona State and Virginia, they're not like a blue blood programs when it comes to basketball, but they are Big 12 and ACC, and respect to the ACC, who's made a lot of noise in the last couple of years on the hardwood. So I think you got to show them their respect. But man, hey, you get a team at home.
Yeah.
Right before you get into conference play in the Moody Center in Austin, you're led by a new head coach.
They still have those balloons there?
The balloons?
Were they just...
I haven't seen them. I seen them. I started covering this like midway through last season, but no, I haven't seen the balloons yet. They probably need to bring them back.
Because when I was watching Texas basketball and they'd play the Mountaineers when I was still in college, I just remember the Moody Center was always so interesting because the student section just waved around those like crazy balloons. I don't remember the actual, like they're the balloons that you can like make like a dog out of. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Those ones that you shape out.
You can like shape them.
Traditional circle balloons.
But they don't shape them. They just like wave them around, so it looks like the wavy guys outside the car dealerships. That's just what I remember Texas basketball being.
Listen, I grew up a UT fan. I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen them yet since I've been here. So,
okay.
But now, I think the Moody Center is going to have to take a different type of identity this season as well. I mean, you got to be proud. One thing I can say about the fans at Moody, they show up, man. Good or bad, they show up. So, Sean Miller, new head coach, and I think you have to steal these 2 games, and you got to make things competitive on the road against UConn. I mean, I know it's UConn, but you can't just lay down. Like, you got to go out there and you got to try to come back to Austin with the win from the East Coast, and I think that sets them up pretty good as they get ready to go into conference play, starting with Mississippi State, and then you got a tough team coached by Rick Barnes, a former UT coach over at Tennessee. That's not they're no slouch. You know what they can do defensively, so you better find a way to put the ball through the net.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, you want to touch on the women's side because they are expected to be a factor in the national championship picture. They got a huge win, and by huge, I mean they won by dang near 70 points. Actually, more than 70 points there in their win over Incarnate Word, a program that I heard about for the first time with Cam Ward when he was coming to the draft. This women's basketball team, once again, expected to compete with the South Carolinas and everybody else going into the year. What does this 2025-26 team look like going into the season?
Man, they look good, especially, we could talk about Madison Booker and Rory Harmon. We know what they've been the last couple of years with that young lady right there, Aaliyah Crump. I got to do a story with her because she gave back to one of the local schools, giving it back to a girls' basketball team, giving them shoes and clothes and everything like that she had from her one of her sponsorships. She's the real deal, and I think the thing is you're going to see this season is that the team's going to shoot more 3-pointers. And we asked Vic Schaefer about this before the season started because I saw him in a couple of exhibition games. I'm like, Coach, last year your team didn't take too many 3-point shots, and that was by design. Like, well, it doesn't matter if you can have the shot all you want, but can you make it?
Right.
And they can make it. Yeah. Aaliyah Crump specifically can make that shot. Jordan Lee, the sophomore from the West Coast out in California, she can make that shot. And we've seen her, doing a lot more ball handling this year than she did her freshman season. That's because she understands the Vic Schaefer system. It is defensive-minded and offense comes second. And because she is so great on defense, because she has their own ball skill set, you don't have to play Rory Harmon the entire game. You can get the ball in the hands of Jordan Lee and Madison Booker. And then you talk about Rory Harmon. She has found her shot this season. She said it. I'm taking more shots. I feel more comfortable. She got that knee brace off. I know how much she hated that. So the doctor's cleared her to take it off, and she's feeling like herself. I think the one thing that's still in question is going to be the post game. You no longer have Taylor Jones, Kyla Oldacre. She can be a one-woman wrecking crew. Brea Cunningham, the transfers. You got to at some point see how she does against some of the big defenders in the SEC, as you mentioned already. You got to go against the South Carolinas and the LSUs. And she's a little undersized, but it don't always matter. Size does not always matter. Sometimes you can just have that presence in the paint, and if you got good skill set, it won't really make a difference. Especially if you can force those bigs to come out, and you have the shot making capabilities that Brea Cunningham has. And then you can always dish it out to young ladies like Aaliyah Crump from Minnesota, and Jordan Lee, and Madison Booker, who's a baseline threat no matter what piece of hardwood she's playing on. So.
Absolutely. And they're back at the Moody Center tonight looking to go 2-0 as the 24th ranked team in the country comes to town in the Richmond Spiders. Levon, thank you so much for your time and all your insights. I know you're just getting your work week started, but I hope it's a good one and a blessed one, my man.
I appreciate you guys, man. Y'all take it easy. Enjoy the weekend.
Likewise, you do the very same. That is Levon Whitaker. It's a really good time here for him because the football team is off this week, but 3 great games to end off the season. And in the meantime, some good basketball.
Yeah, I mean, Texas still controls their own destiny, in my opinion. You win out, you easily have a shot at making the college football playoff, I would argue. Yeah, you take into account branding in the college football playoff.
No question.
There's just no doubt in my mind that a 10-2 Texas team with losses to Florida and Ohio State is better than a 10-2 Notre Dame team with losses to Miami and Texas A&M. We'll see how things pan out. But it should be interesting. And, yeah, both basketball teams going to be interesting years for them, too.
Yeah, lots to look forward to there. And you mentioned that branding thing because it also made sense when you posed that hypothetical to Julian about Michigan in that exact same light. So it'll be fun to see how it all shakes out here in the rest of the college football season as we get ready for the meat of the basketball season. Teams tipping off. Games 1 usually in the books for most teams. Game 2 coming up this weekend, and through next week. Keep it here on Southeast Sports Plus. Our program continues. Hour number 2 on Friday. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, it is hour number 2. We'll get into some interesting conversation in here a little bit. But speaking of interesting, one thing that was not interesting was last night's football game. We did our best bets, and I didn't go back to see if we won ours. I did not bet this game, and thank God I didn't relegate myself to 3 hours of Broncos Raiders because I can't lie to you. It was just not good football. Bo Nix and company ended up winning the game 10-7. 10-7 was the final score. I mean, there were just some horrible numbers in this football game. I'll read you some of them.
I'm looking at them right now.
Geno Smith was at 10 of 16, 143 yards and interception. Bo Nix, 16 of 28.
Well, I know yours wouldn't have hit because I remember you had the over 1.5 interceptions.
Yes, that's right. Yep,
on Geno Smith. Sorry.
Yep, I thought Patrick Surtain would get him for a second time, but no, it's not the case there. But no, the stats in this game were just absolutely awful. Both teams, because there were 10 first downs for each team. They were both had 4. Raiders were 4 of 15 on third down. The Broncos were 5 of 15 on third down. 58 to 57 plays for each team. About 220 yards. It was like I said, just really not good football, which actually leads to a bigger question about this.
Do we need to start considering just abolishing Thursday Night Football?
I think so, and especially when it's division games. I know what the NFL is trying to do there. They're trying to make it important games on a Thursday because these are division opponents.
Right.
Well, what ends up happening is that both these teams are so familiar with one another that the defenses usually play pretty well. The guys are still kind of banged up. And so what you end up getting is just not good football.
I almost want to say, looking at the over-under set for every Thursday Night Football game this year, the over's hit maybe once.
Exactly, and that's the trend.
Once, maybe twice.
Right.
I mean, coming off short week, that's already tough as is.
Yes.
I know the Cowboys are off this week, but when you look at, they always play on Thanksgiving, which is obviously a Thursday.
Right.
And then they have the Thursday night game right after.
That's right, yeah.
So it almost lucks out for them because they get a normal.
It's a normal week.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a normal game. It's a normal week of prep. But I guess that's the bone the NFL throws them. But a bigger conversation, the Thursday night games, I think we're both aligned with that. And Amazon paid $8 quadrillion for the package. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon. We're just going to have to just deal with not good football games. But in that game specifically, the Broncos ended up getting the win. Once again, they don't really look all that good at all. This is a team that is 8-2 on the season. They're 5-0 at home. Do you think that this team can win that division, or do you think the Chiefs, who are 5-4 right now, end up coming back? Or do you believe in the Chargers, Justin Herbert, although they're missing their main offensive lineman in Joe Alt, and I know nobody believes in the Raiders.
Obviously no one believes in the Raiders. Yeah. They're at this point just playing for the number 1 overall draft pick. I weirdly think the Chiefs might have a legit chance at missing the playoffs this year.
Wow,
Sitting at 5-4, just lost to Buffalo. I know Dallas is down this year, but they made all the trades. Jerry wants to go all in.
Yep.
That was the big moniker 2 years ago, or before last offseason, is I'm going to go all in, get the best guys, get the best free agents, make those trades, and it just didn't happen.
Right.
I see a scenario where it's Broncos, Chargers for the 2 AFC spots, and then it's going to be looking around the rest. I believe I could definitely see a scenario where your Patriots make it.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to who's the last one. Is it going to be the AFC North?
Right.
The AFC West.
Yeah.
I don't see a scenario where the AFC South gets 2 teams.
Me too. I think it's just the division winner. That's the only team that ends up getting in for them. As far as the Chiefs go, they'll actually play in Denver against the Broncos. And then it's the Colts, and then Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans. So there's some winnable games on there, but Broncos and Colts, those are 2 back-to-back games. Broncos in Denver, and then against the Indianapolis Colts, who we just saw made a big trade to get Sauce Gardner. So this is a team that's Indianapolis is going all in. They're going all in. They think they can win the Super Bowl this year with Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the shocker to me was going all in on Sauce Gardner. I didn't realize that, he would come with such a premium cost, 2 first-round picks. We'll see what happens there. The last time the Jets had a lot of first-round picks in a draft, it was Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and I believe Breece Hall that were all drafted. Yeah, they were pretty good, but for some reason just things could not shape up for the Jets. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they won the trade deadline getting 5 first-round picks.
No question, yeah.
It's just, can you draft with them?
Can you draft with them? What will you do with them once they're in the building? Will they even have the same head coach? I mean, it's usually a disaster there.
So many questions.
Right. But they have a lot of draft capital going into this offseason. We'll see what the Jets do, officially punting on this year, but getting a haul back in the trade right before the trade deadline. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we'll be joined by a very special friend. We'll have more next. For number 2 on a Friday. A familiar, beautiful face in the house back with us. Our very own Simone Eli. Simone, you know what? I'm just going to step away from this microphone really quick.
Oh my gosh.
It's your floor. It's your floor.
No, guys. Oh my goodness. Well, obviously, as it's probably been well discussed and probably mentioned some point this week or on this show today, it's my last day here in Mobile, and it's been kind of a whirlwind already, just of the day, so to speak, but also kind of been a whirlwind of just the last couple of weeks and how all this has kind of come up. Obviously, I'm leaving for New York City, which is wild to even have those words come out of my mouth. In Mobile, the Southeast Sports Plus, the SEC is, to say that I'm proud of it, to say that it's been everything and more to my entire life for the last, more than a decade is an understatement. And I would have retired here, and I think that every now and then, they turn the lights off on you and you just gotta roll with the punches. But
how poetic.
I know.
But I think you guys know me, right? I'm unbelievably proud of this show. And of this TV station, but I'm also excited about what this next step looks like from the standpoint of having a lot of support and a lot of people, who've just kind of put me in a position to be able to go do this. That includes the two of you guys. There's a lot of people in Nexstar who have kind of put me in a position to go have success and to go do this.
Right.
None bigger than the two people sitting at this table, right? You two. Gerhard, obviously, first and foremost, just like we still have an entire day of television to get through together.
That's true.
So there's that part. But your friendship to me is beyond words. It's obviously well beyond this television station. It's well beyond this show. Thank God for it, because when I'm calling you trying to figure out what's going on in Major League Baseball that I'm covering and other things like that, I'm gonna need you to answer. You've helped build everything. We've done it together. I was a sports director 3 years ago, and now it's your show, and then you get this sidekick guy over here who, I'm grateful that he came into our life too, because 100%. Honestly, we didn't know what this show was really going to look like and how we were going to be able to do it. And then we get the young gun in here and we, kind of build him up, and he takes it off and, takes off with it and just does everything that he's been doing, Patrick. And, grateful for your, you wanting to come down here and do this thing here in Mobile with us. And so,
honestly, words cannot describe how grateful I am for both of you allowing me to come down here. It's not an easy move, moving all the way from home, but you guys have really been like my family down here, and that's really meant a lot, because it really is tough for if people haven't moved like 1,000 miles away from home. Like, you have no one. And you guys are my best friends down here.
You guys, you've become like our little work son. Exactly. You're like our friend, and you're of drinking age and everything like that. We play golf and stuff. We can't really tell you what to do, and you have a girlfriend you live with, but we can't. And you're engaged, and you're like a grown man, but you're still like our child. I feel like you have great parents, but we get to kind of hijack you at least at work here, but. To say I'm going to miss you guys is an understatement, But I also know that, I know that you're a phone call away. You guys know that I'm a phone call away. And, we still have an entire day's worth of television to do today, too. So, but, and another thing I want to mention, too, is that I think a big part of this opportunity has come out of this show. And, wow. I'm not kidding. I just got chills. This show is successful because we have had dozens and dozens and dozens of television stations and reporters across Nexstar buy into this show and buy into what it is that we're doing. It was not just me, not just you, not just Patrick, we've had engineers, you name it here, Gene Kirkconnell, Jesse Greer to sign off on us doing this, people in corporate, but the people who've made the magic happen are the people who have answered the call day in and day out on this show and made appearances. And probably none bigger than our guy Roger Wallace, who has become a staple on this show. He's a veteran sports director, the voice of the Longhorns, and he's stuck with us every single week and helped grow this thing. We appreciate every single news director and general manager that takes this show across Nexstar Nation. It's more than 20 TV stations, the collaboration. I think that we're about to have, hit the end break. I'm going to have to,
No, we got time.
We got time.
We're extended all the way to 58.
59.
But,
59.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
okay.
59.
But those people, the leadership at every individual station across the Southeast, and we're at 100%. Every single Nexstar station that has CTV in the Southeast takes part of this show or all of this show.
Right.
I'm indebted. I'm undoubtedly grateful for forever that so many people bought in, because I think that it's been a huge thing for this company. And from a personal standpoint, I feel like it's part of the challenge and part of the call of what we're going to go try to do in New York. Something different, right? But the same model of, hey, how can we go grow in this great platform that we have in our company?
Right.
And that doesn't happen without general managers and news directors across the SEC and Nexstar saying, like, we want to take this great product. We want our talent to be on it. Then those people buying in, photographers shooting great video, and everybody just being so collaborative. It brings me to tears. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And equally, I'm going to miss it a lot, too.
Yeah.
I am. I really am.
Yeah, so. and the thing that I'll add to it is that, like, with every great change, there needs to be some kind of change maker. And, like, for example, when you have still water at a lake, right, and you throw a rock in it, and you have that ripple effect, and you see it miles down the road. If you keep up with that ripple effect, you see it miles down the road, and that's what you are. You were instrumental to help bringing all of this together. From our rehearsal shows that we were doing right before newscasts, we were working before we did. I'll peel the curtain back. Before we were doing the 6 o'clock, and before the 10 o'clock, we'd come in here, and this wasn't anything close to what it is right now. And we would do mock shows, and Patrick would sit right there, and he'd punch it up. And
there was one day we didn't leave here until 2 a.m.
That's exactly right.
I remember.
I think I have a picture from that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I mean, the thing, this never gets to where it is without you. And I know that you'll kill it in that same role, because you bring that to everything, and you have for 15 years.
Yeah,
and yeah, so we will miss you more than words can accurately say.
Yeah.
And like I said, we got a whole day of TV.
Yeah, we do. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be hard. I spent all day writing thank you cards with horrible handwriting. I mean, I'm not kidding. I told our news director a minute ago, I'm like, just know, this is the one I spent the most time on trying to make look neat, and everything just drop off from there. So if it's not legible, just know you have the best one that's available of the group. So the two of you guys, I should have just sent you guys a text. I'm better off just send you a text, because you already know how I feel. I don't need to write it down, but at least you can keep this and go, dang, Simone should have gone back to 8th grade, like, cursive or something, because this is bad. So,
there's only one way. We got to end the last 3 minutes here, and it's our favorite time of the week every single week. Here we go.
Oh, yes. Let's roll.
5th ranked Georgia heading into Starkville. Got to deal with those Cowbells. 9.5-point favorites.
Georgia covers.
Georgia covers. I like Georgia more than 10. Mississippi State, they make everybody play tough. I think Mississippi State covers, Georgia wins.
This is my one team might play shocker. I don't think Mississippi State's going to win, but I think they're going to cover. Just because of those overtime games against Kentucky or against Tennessee and Texas.
Yeah.
Number 3, Texas A&M, 6.5-point favorites on the road against Mizzou.
I would like it if Bo Perbullo's playing. He's out. I think Texas A&M smokes him.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on that one.
A&M definitely covers that one. Auburn at number 16 Vanderbilt. 6.5-point favorites are the Commodores.
You've put a little wrinkle here in the universe, and I 100% agree with you. There is an interim coach bump. We've seen this with a lot of teams. I would have done it for LSU. It's a really tough matchup. Auburn goes to Nashville and gets the win.
He's picking with his heart. And I don't agree. I'm going to do it too.
No.
I'm going to do it too. He's picking with his heart. War Eagle. War Eagle.
Yeah.
Let's go. Get the dub.
I got to go with Vanderbilt there. I'm sorry,
Vandy.
guys.
Okay.
I just have to.
Honestly, that's logical.
LSU and Alabama. Alabama's 9.5-point favorite.
LSU will play with a lot of intensity because of Frank Wilson. I'm just telling you that I think Alabama's just too good. That scare from South Carolina last week, way too much. I like Bama, and you might have to sweat it out, but I like them to cover.
Bama rolls.
LSU definitely covers. They're not going to win. They're going to lose by 4, but I just feel like LSU is just that sneaky team that could put a dent in some plans here. And then Florida, 3.5-point favorites at Kentucky. Last one.
That line is begging you to take Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Because Kentucky just beat Auburn. Florida has been a little bit listless. I'm going with Mark Stoops and company to pull off the upset, get the win at home 2 in a row.
I'm knee deep in 30 for 30s on the Yankees and the Mets, and so honestly, I'm not even really qualified to be making these assessments right now.
We were just talking about St. John's earlier. Now covering Alabama. Now you got to flip and cover the other side.
I'm not trying to say that I'm like your girl's got to get prepped. I'm all about preparation, okay? So this is your show now. This is your baby.
Florida.
And it's yours.
Florida wins.
You guys do the things. Go Gators. War Eagle.
Simone, you have 30 seconds. The floor is yours.
Well, it's been great. It's been, oh my gosh, I like when I'm not only by myself. Guys, honestly though, Patrick, how much time left?
You've got 20 seconds.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you, everybody across the Southeast, Southeast Sports Plus. Thank you across Nexstar, Gerhard, Patrick, people in corporate, from top to bottom, for your support, for helping us get here. And, man, looking forward to doing it on the big stage and seeing all the success here on this show as well, guys. For Gerhard, for Patrick, I'm Simone. We'll see you next week.